Hi, we're Daz, Gaz and James. Welcome to some Mirren Shiny. Okay, so we've picked a selection of pundits, and we're going to start off with Ian Wright. So what's everyone's thoughts on Ian Wright?
I know you're really not keen on him at all, are you?
I'm not keen on him.
No.
He's like someone's uncle who tries too hard.
Yeah, I feel like he's a footballer, obviously, but he's one of them footballers that's a little bit too passionate for me. I think he's just like, especially when it's like England games, which is where you see him pop up most. He just annoys me.
He comes across more as a fan than a pundit, doesn't he?
He
seems like he's trying too hard though. Like he wants people.
Yeah.
Like, I'm looking at one of the people.
Yeah,
one of the lads.
Yeah, one of the lads.
Yeah.
And
also as well. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. Have you ever seen the his reaction to Warwick Davis? Have you ever seen that?
No.
Honestly, if you get a chance to watch it, it is the most accidental partridge moment of all time. Like. I don't.
Where does he meet him?
He doesn't meet him. It's during the World Cup. I think it's 2006, and Warwick Davis does a sketch with Stephen Merchant and Ricky Gervais.
Yeah,
and it's not particularly funny, but at the end of the sketch, it just pans back to the studio, and Ian Wright goes, "Oh, I do like little people, And it just pans to Gary Lineker, and Gary Lineker's face just tells the story of the nation. It's literally everybody just going, "Are you sure you've just said that?" But yeah, watch it. It's on YouTube, but it's genius, but also embarrassing.
I don't heavily dislike him as a person, but he offers nothing as a pundit, really.
No, I think he had his. Do you remember as well in the World Cup 2002 when we beat Denmark?
Yeah.
And Peter Schmeichel was in the studio and they had that argument.
Oh yeah.
That sums up what I don't like about Ian Wright. It's like he's just. I know I'm all for passion.
It's kind of forced banter as well, isn't it?
It is massively forced.
When he was all over Slaven Bilic, and he just kept
I know, just a little bit, get a room,
chill out a bit. Yeah.
Well, it just doesn't seem. He's not relevant anymore. Like kids of today who are starting to watch football would probably not really know who Ian Wright is. And I think that's what kind of bothers me. I can kind of get like the Gary Nevilles and the Carraghers and that kind of stuff. But not Ian Wright. People just think, what the fuck's that? Like, in the nicest way. I'm not his biggest fan.
So, if you had to rate him out of 10?
I'm going to struggle with a lot of these because I hate most of them. But can we use decimal points? I feel like most of the pundits...
Is it going to be that low?
0.3? Most mainstream pundits to me offer less than 10% of what I would want from a pundit.
I can imagine you being on there.
That's the issue.
Just sitting at the camera like that.
It should be lower than one. There's just no...
Can we go into minuses? Can we do...
I mean, mine would be like 0.5 maybe.
0.5?
4 or a 5.
I've got to tell us we are doing Garth Crooks, so I don't know where we're going to go with that. If you're a 0.5 with,
I'll go for
Ian
1
Wright.
then.
Okay, yeah.
Nice.
I'll go with 2. Bearing in mind we've got Garth Crooks coming up, so yeah, I'll go with 2. So the next one we've got is Alan Shearer. James, I'm going to sit back and listen to you. I know how much you despise the guy.
I cannot stand the man. He steals a living. £500,000
Says
a year.
us doing this.
We're not getting paid.
It's not a living.
£500,000 a year he gets paid, and he knows nothing about football. He knows absolutely nothing. It's basically just based on a result. That's all he does. If somebody wins, they deserve to win. If somebody loses, they've not played well enough. I think it was the League Cup final this year when he had a mini debate with Jermaine Jenas, and Jenas was saying, I think Tottenham deserved to win. They lost 4-2. And Tottenham played really, really well in the game and probably did deserve to win. And Shearer was like, well, no, they didn't because they lost 4-2. And that completely sums him up. He's just so results orientated. There's never any...
Well, is that not just being an ex-footballer though? If you don't put the ball in the net, you don't deserve to win a goal. But
it's so basic, isn't it? Like, you must know as a footballer that this, like, it's 50% luck, 50% skill in any one given game.
Yeah.
But there's no nuance with him at all. It's literally just, even if a team has scraped a 1-0 win and they've just played awful, it's just luck. It's just luck that they've won. He'll never acknowledge that. He's always just, they were gutsy. They battled. They threw themselves in front of it. It's just just makes me sick.
I think my big problem, with Alan Shearer is the fact that he doesn't do any research. That bothers me.
Well, he comes to a World Cup or Euros, and he doesn't know any of the players.
Yeah, and it's like players who are like household names in their country. And he's talking about them like they play for Aldershot. You know, he's just like he's done a little bit of research helps. I just think as long as you know where they're playing at the time, maybe a little bit of background about them. I know there's a lot of players, and you're not going to be able to know every single player. But some of the players he was getting wrong or getting, he annoys me as well, to be honest.
When it's your job, when you're getting paid £500,000 a year, watch some fucking matches. Do some research. If we can find time to watch some of these players and know who the up and coming youngsters are, coming into a Euros or a World Cup, then he should do. He should know a lot more than we do.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be.
This is the argument about having legends of the game, being pundits. I think because I think some of the better pundits are lesser known players.
Well, I don't see why it has to be ex-players. This is I think they're scared of putting people on the screen who we don't recognise.
Well, Tim Vickery.
I'd much rather
Willem de League.
Yeah.
They're both absolutely brilliant.
I'd much rather have football journalists discussing the match afterwards and giving some actual insight, using some stats. There will never be anything about pass percentages, nothing about expected goals. It will flash up on the screen and then it's never mentioned. It's just literally they won, so they were good. They lost, so they were bad. It's just that's it. It's that's it. You may as well just be reading the scores.
Yeah,
He gets paid for reading the scores. I think he's an idiot. He's boring.
Here he is.
He's fine. He won't watch.
Yeah. If he did, just came around and beat the
If
shit
you're watching,
out of
turn it off. It's not for you. It's not for you, Alan. You watching this like a dog listening to classical music. It's just, I can't. It's just not. There's nothing about him. He's even if he was funny, at least Ian Wright. Occasionally, you're able to he'll slag off little people. At least you can laugh at that. He offers nothing. I hate the man. He's stealing a living.
This is where decimal points come in, isn't it?
I know, yeah. All right, rate him out of 10 then.
I mean, as low as it can be. If a 0 is like a kettle, then he's maybe 0.1. I'll give him that.
You'd rather have a kettle on Match of the Day.
Probably.
I quite like Shearer.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Here we go.
As a person, not as a pundit. I mean, I've seen him people do interviews with him, the True Geordie podcast when he was on that he was quite a nice bloke on that. He seemed like a nice bloke, but as a pundit, I agree he's a bit shit. Really. I'd rate him probably higher than Ian Wright, a 5, pushing a 6, but he is still really, really bland.
A 2. He's not the worst. He's not the absolute worst.
I think it's because I see so much of him. I think that's why he annoys me more. He's on every match of the day. And I don't really even watch it now. I'll watch the games and I'll just skip through. Maybe he's amazing now. I've not watched him. But
I know, yeah. He knows loads about football. So, next one is my arch nemesis, Mr. Garth Crooks. I fucking despise the guy. I've never met him, but I imagine that if I did...
tonight!
Yeah, I'd love that. Bit of smoke coming out, he comes walking in. I'd punch him. I would knock him through the fucking microwave. I hate him. He's horrible. He's the worst for me. He waffles so much shit. He's so self-important. I mean, does he know what he's saying? Does he watch himself?
He certainly thinks he does. He sees himself as a football philosopher, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He just the phrases he uses are very.
But he's not going to release
strange
a
and
penguin book, is he? Let's be honest.
He might release a penguin
Into the wild.
I'd watch that actually. Garth Crooks releases penguins into the wild.
No, I'll probably watch that. Quite entertaining. He's horrible, guys.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Crooks. He just seems like he's the worst kind of... I'd rather have Adrian Childs or Andy Townsend than Garth Crooks. And
that's a strong opinion.
And
those three together would mark the apocalypse. I feel like
He's a bit different. That Andy Townsend's like as boring as you can
he's
get.
he's beige as fuck. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas Garth
is boring, but also with controversial subjects. He's horrible. He's he's team of the week as well. I'm sure
his
we're
team
all
of the
aware
week is really, really weird.
Yeah.
I don't really.
You're not reading.
No,
It's
no.
just
should start
fit
reading
as many
it.
English players as you can. If a defender scores, they're in the team. Doesn't matter what happens to their end. They score a header, they're in the team.
Yeah, it
It's
literally can be like Brighton have drawn 3-3. Like their defence has been an absolute nightmare, but Dunk has popped up and scored a header.
Oh yeah, straight
deflected
in there.
off someone's arse. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
in. That's him straight in. He's a really weird guy.
He's horrible.
He seems to change his mind quite a lot as well. Like certain players, he'll really rave about, and then the next week, like they're fucking awful.
Yeah.
He's obsessed with Drogba's. No, Drogba. He's obsessed with Pogba's hair as well.
He is, yeah.
That's like really, yeah. He just thinks he's like a prima donna because he like dyes his hair and stuff and got crazy colours in his hair. That sort of thing seems to bother him a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Like you said, like one of the reasons
Is he
Kante's
kind of stuck
so
in
good.
the 80s, kind of?
He's got the a bit of that mentality.
He's horrible. What we rating him? Because for me, we can't get to minus figure. He's 0 for me. He's the worst. He's the
Same as
absolute
an
worst.
inanimate object.
The same as he's so Shearer's a kettle. He for me is a soiled child's glove in the street. That's how bad it. I'd rather watch that for half an hour.
Not even in the studio.
Not even in the studio. I'd rather
Got away
watch it.
camera.
I'd
One of
watch
them
it for
live
half an
links.
hour.
Yeah. It taught more sense.
When
Definitely
Gary
more.
stands up, like has to do like a satellite link.
To a soiled child's glove. Yeah, that's my thought. 0.
Well, I'm not an arse, so I'm probably going to go 1.
Calling it now.
Are we allowed to give 0?
Garth, Crooks agent.
Controversially, I prefer him to Ian Wright or Alan Shearer.
fuck off.
Just because he's so weird. So at least there's that. At least there's something to hang on to because he's so fucking strange. Alan Shearer's just like talking to your mum about football. Just, you get nothing. It's not funny. It's boring. I'd rather talk about something else. Ian Wright will occasionally be funny. He might humiliate a midget.
Okay, 1. Yeah. 0? No.
I'll go 2 for Garth.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next selection is Paul Scholes. Anyone got any thoughts on Paul Scholes?
I really like Paul Scholes.
As a person or as a pundit?
Both. I think he doesn't really give a shit about a lot of stuff. You didn't really hear about him, when he was a footballer, but now when he comes out, he just tells it how it is. And you get a lot less faff with him than you do with anybody else.
I know what you mean, yeah.
I quite like him.
What about you, James? What do you think?
I'm fairly indifferent towards him. I thought, if anything, maybe I was expecting to be slightly better, but I thought that's because he's such a cultured footballer and you hardly ever heard him speak, so it's quite intriguing. I don't think he's amazing. I think he's okay. I think he's a little bit too... He gets very worked up about Man United.
He's quite outspoken, isn't he?
Yeah,
like
but
he goes
only
for
really about Man United, it seems. He doesn't seem to have
that's
that
quite
much
good
of a
though.
broad
Being
range.
outspoken is quite a good thing. Where you want somebody to have a bit of passion and a bit of something about them.
Yeah.
Whereas people like your Shearers and all that kind of stuff are all very much
Ian
down
Wright's
the middle.
passionate, but I think in a different way. I think Ian Wright's passionate, but in a kind of quite laddie way, whereas Scholes is quite passionate, but in a kind of almost like how a pundit should be, I guess.
Yes.
Like, I haven't got a problem with him at all. Like, I do think he tries a little bit too hard sometimes to go for the almost like the obvious angle of negativity.
Certainly towards Mourinho and Man United.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say,
that-
he
It's
doesn't.
understandable.
Yeah, it's justified.
No, I can
isn't
see
it?
that. I mean, you said earlier, James. Like, I can't remember him ever being interviewed really as a footballer when he was in his prime. I met a couple of times maybe on like ITV after like a Champions League game, but it seems quite weird hearing his voice week in week out. It's a bit.
Well, he was
tropey,
famously
isn't it?
very quiet, wasn't he? Even as a
Yeah.
player, he didn't really speak out much. And didn't
Yeah.
like doing interviews. He was fairly shy. I was actually surprised when he became a pundit.
Yeah,
which was why it was quite interesting
Yeah,
to see,
yeah.
see what he had to say.
He's definitely middle ground for me. If
Yeah,
I'm being
I'd
honest.
say-
I'd give him like a 5. I think he's banging the middle ground for me. Like, I don't dislike if his name pops up on the kind of the pundits list. I don't go, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah,
So-
I wouldn't say he's great. What's my highest so far?
Well,
2.
1. Yeah.
What did he got
Yeah.
for 2? He's better than Garth. I'll give him a 3.
No, he's
He's
better.
not
He's
one better than Garth, is he?
I don't like any. I don't like any of them. They're
No,
all shit.
for me, he's up. He's about a 7 for me. I really like him. I seem to like him. I think I could probably have a pint with him. Like, he seems like a nice kind of bloke. And
I'd definitely film that.
yeah, and I think he's passionate about something, and he gives a different angle. I'm going for a 7.
Fair enough.
Okay, I'll go 3.
Furious.
Pundits are shit, aren't they?
So the next in our selection is probably everyone's favourite pundit. I'd say Gary Neville.
I like Gary Neville. I think what helps him is a lot of his work is done on Monday Night Football, which I do like Monday Night Football with him and Carragher. Sometimes it gets a bit too like cheesy banter, but it can be quite entertaining. But the fact that they have so long to actually go more in depth into things, whereas obviously Match of the Day you're a bit more
Press for
hampered.
time.
Like, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to hear Shearer talking for 2 hours about football. I'd probably kill myself. But it is a bit of a luxury for them. Not many people actually have that platform to go in depth, and obviously it's quite funny when they get the screens wrong and stuff as well, and all the technology.
I think the banter between him and Carragher is like, you can't kind of replicate that in a studio if you wanted to. It's just natural.
Especially if they've been kind of like I won't say enemies, but like, you know,
they were proper
opposition
rivals.
rivals.
And there's some proper like
ages.
tongue-in-cheek stuff now, and I think, I think with Neville as well, like I've heard people say, he left Sky, didn't need to go to Valencia, and that didn't turn out too well. And people have lost a bit of respect for him when he's talking about football because he failed.
I like the way he confronts that, though. He's not scared about talking about it. He'll say why it went wrong. I don't think that gives him any less respect as a pundit, because they're two different things, being a manager and being a pundit. He obviously knows about football. What I like about him, he goes a bit more in depth as well. He will actually do his research. He'll try and dig into the numbers a bit. He's a good co-commentator. He's probably my favourite co-commentator, actually. He's one of the few that when you're watching a game, he'll spot something that maybe you wouldn't. Like he does what a former player should do for me, which is provide some sort of analysis that you, as a viewer that haven't been a footballer, wouldn't necessarily notice. Yeah. I think most of them don't do that. That's where the former players generally fail, whereas Neville will actually give you some sort of insight, which is like exclusive to a former player, and it's actually genuinely interesting. He's got quite an annoying voice.
Yeah.
When he made that noise when Torres. I think that's when he kind of just started. He didn't really know how to be I think he's cut that sort of shit out now. But at least that was funny.
He kind of made the voice that a lot of people were thinking in the head, but he actually made the noise.
It's one of the worst noises I've ever heard.
It's horrendous.
It's like a dying man having an orgasm. Like, you're not sure if it's pain or pleasure or it's just horrible. And it went on for so long. You'd have thought once you started making that noise and you've gone, you'd stop. You wouldn't go,
It's kind of like,
he was in his head, I'm still going.
It's like those Brazilian commentators, go. But fucking way worse. Horrendous, yeah. Okay, so what we're saying then for Gary Neville? For me, I'd say probably like an 8.
Yeah, I'd be happy with an 8 or a 9, yeah.
James 4.
I know, yeah. I'm thinking about what I'd want a 9 or a 10 to be, and I think it'd be more people like the people I watch on Football Daily that really dig into the numbers, expected goals, and like all the stuff you want to hear. So I'd say if that's a 9 or a 10, Neville still doesn't quite do that, but he'll give some analysis that they wouldn't be able to do. I'll go for 7.5.
7.5. Just to make this out, like, if you were a how highly would you rate yourself?
I mean, I wouldn't know till I was on there. I'd imagine like a 9 or so.
Why not?
Let's have a quick Carragher, just quickly.
He's the lesser Neville, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a lesser Neville.
So he's probably like a 6.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd really be able to do it by himself. I think he needs Neville to be able to kind of back. Their arguments are quite good.
Yeah.
Neville generally comes out on top in them, it seems. I think he sort of does need Neville a bit for his like analysis and his approach to work. I'd say maybe a 5 for.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout. A 5. Yeah.
So the next on the list, Mr. Michael Owen.
Oh God.
I mean,
are there many more boring people?
I know. There was that really good quote, wasn't it? If you were stuck on a desert island with Michael Owen and a tin of corned beef, you'd eat Michael Owen and talk to the corned beef.
That's probably fair enough.
Yeah.
That video of him flying around Dubai.
That's amazing. That
for me
really,
might
really
be
good.
my go-to video when I need to sleep, but also laugh as I'm sleeping. It is fucking brilliant. Like, I'm all for reading the script. I imagine I'll be quite wooden. But fuck me, like it's like Pinocchio reading it. It's ridiculous.
When he did that advert for...
Oh, it was whiskey, wasn't it?
No, there was one before that, and all he had to do is celebrate.
Oh, Asda.
And that's when he was scoring
He
like loads of goals.
fucking
The
Asda.
one thing you should be able to do is celebrate. And even that looked really well. Yes.
Well, to be fair, let's be honest though, Alex Ferguson, probably the greatest manager of all time, he couldn't fucking celebrate. He couldn't do it, could he? But yeah, that was. I know the advert you mean, it's where he's buying curries from Asda, wasn't it? And he said all he had to do was hold them up and go, yeah, and he went, what are you
so
doing?
Painful. So yeah, there's not really any redeeming features with him.
No, he's boring as fuck.
And you say about like some of the pundits before stating the obvious.
Oh,
like
yeah,
Shearer,
yeah.
he's fucking horrendous for it. Like someone will kick the ball, he's just kicked the ball. He's just like, yeah, we can see that, mate. Like we just need a little bit of extra.
Just occasionally, if he's a co-commentator, he'll give a bit of insight into like strikers' movement because Owen was like his movement was superb. Just occasionally, he'll give like a little bit of analysis about somebody should have gone across the near post there, and it's not exactly in-depth stuff, but it's still maybe slightly more than I hear Shearer doing, but. I mean that's clutching at straws.
Yeah.
He's just and his voice is so painfully boring.
It's just I don't know what he brings to the game now he's retired.
No.
You know, he brought a bit when he was playing, but now he's retired. Like, just leave, mate.
And there's loads of stuff online about his like funny quotes and stuff.
Oh,
Like
there's
that.
loads. There must be like a novel in there somewhere because it's just ridiculous. Like for me, out of 10, he's a 2. I mean, maybe 1 or a 2. I don't know. Fuck it, he's not Garth Crooks.
Yeah, I mean, I think did I go with Garth Crooks? Garth Crooks. I went for a 1 for that. A 2 I think would be about right. Yeah, I don't think there's not
James
a lot
is
of
all over the
redeeming
place.
features.
Like
Yeah.
7.3 or something.
What was Ian Wright? 1? Was he 1?
I don't
know
anymore. Everything's been about fucking minus.
With
3.
you, yeah, it's like rate him as a household appliance.
Breville, what is it?
A decent toaster.
It's a toaster.
Decent, what, a 4 slicer?
4 slices.
No, come on.
George
it's not
Foreman
that
grill.
I'll give him a. I'd like to review my ratings. I'll give him a 0.9.
0.9.
Because I think did I give Ian Wright a 1?
I think you had to. I don't know.
I think I'd rather listen to Ian Wright than him. Just
by
because
0.1%.
Yeah. I'll go 0.8.
That's really
Just
precise.
0.8.
Just precise. Okay, now
I need to work on my ratings.
I'm going to do a graph at the end.
Mine's going to skewer everything.
Oh, it's horrendous.
Get Mike to do a graph at the end.
So, Robbie Savage.
Just, he's the fucking Katie Hopkins of football. He is though, isn't he? He just says things that are controversial for the sake of it. He just makes up opinions or what might make a headline. I'll say that. He's so stupid. He's so stupid. Doesn't know anything about football, but he tries to make grand claims just because he knows people will disagree with it or it will make a headline. It'll be a bit clickbaity. He's just awful. He's horrible.
Yeah, I can't understand the guy. Like, I think we've got the 3 of us Derby fans, and I've heard people say he's I wouldn't say a legend, but he was.
I would hope not.
No, I would
really
not.
hope
I've
not.
certainly seen Bob Malcolm, but people have said I've heard people say that they really rated Savage, like when he. For me,
I think his personality kind of outshone his ability to a certain extent.
I just think
he made the most out of his career because he was pretty shit and he still had an alright career.
Yeah.
But
I think that's
he
what
was
it did
horrible
for
as
Derby,
a player.
Derby
He's
fans.
horrible as a pundit.
It was kind of like one of them players like you never want to play against him, but you kind of
I
all
just
like
wouldn't want to be on the
Yeah.
same field as him. I wouldn't be able to near him. That's why I wouldn't want to
If
play
you were on the same field as him, I think something's gone wrong with his career, or something's gone massively right with yours. I don't know.
I'd love that. I would
just
hate to watch
one-on-one. Single cuppies. Me and Robbie Savage.
Yeah.
I'd be so annoyed because he'd be so much better than me.
Garth Crooks in goal. He's a tosser. I hate him. Like for me, he, like you say, he waffles shit. His opinions are always like he goes for the higher ground and everything. He won't kind of agree with the person that's clearly right, he will go with the opposite just to make an argument.
He's everything that's wrong about the media, let alone football punditry. He's made a career out of being a straight talker, which basically means you're a bit of an idiot. You know, like he's just salt of the earth, fucking scum. He's just horrible. He's a horrible human. He's not. There's nothing. There's no redeeming features to him at all.
I'm looking forward to a decimal point. Yeah.
Horrible hair.
Hang on.
I'm not jealous. I shaved mine just so I didn't look like Robbie Savage.
Otherwise, it'd be proper blonde locks.
Say something controversial.
Okay, so
rate him out of 10.
Fuck, I'm looking forward to this.
I know.
This could be a point of a decimal.
What did I give Shearer?
Oh, for fuck's sake! I don't know. What did you give Shearer?
Was it point one? Was it point five? Point one. I think it was point one. Probably this. I mean, they're very different, but they're both as hideous.
But they're both
0.05 maybe.
0.5.
0.05.
So lesser than Shearer. You were furious about Shearer. You're not even that furious about.
I'll put him the same then. I'll put him the same. 0.1 because he's hideous. He's hideous.
You have to get a scientific calculator out for this shit.
He is a dick, but he does like provoke controversy, and that's good for debate, surely.
It's not necessary. You can have debate without someone saying something stupid to start a debate. We don't need Robbie Savage to be able to have a heated debate. We don't need Katie Hopkins to talk about serious issues. I think
that the thing with Savage is his entire career was based upon being
controversial.
He was one of
a twat. Yeah.
There's a fine line between controversial and a twat. And fair, he's more of a twat for me. But I think for me, he's a bit too much for a pundit. I think you want to have the facts and the figures without just constantly coming out with the most controversial thing you can think of to cause the controversy in the first place.
I don't even believe that he believes what he says a lot of the time. No. I think he will say something just to be controversial. Like, I'm fine with something controversial if there's some thought behind it. If you've got something to back it up, you can have wildly differing opinions and some of them might be quite on the edge, which is fine. But he just says something because he thinks it'll get...
I think it's proof for me, Savage, that you can be a controversial, fairly shit footballer but also become a pundit because of your controversy. It's kind of like Joey Barton syndrome, isn't it? It's like if you can basically get sent off a few times and wind players and fans up, then people think you've got an opinion to make because that's the way you were. And for me, he doesn't make enough of an opinion to warrant being a pundit.
No.
So how would you rate him?
For me, Garth Crooks is the absolute fucking milestone for me. He would be a little bit higher than that. He'd be like I don't know, 1.
I mean, I'd go for a 3. I think my scores have probably been fairly consistent.
What did I give Shearer?
Oh, for fuck's sake! How many times are you going to ask what you gave to Shearer?
Was it 0.1?
I don't know! Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
I'll probably go the same, 0.1. Just because he's completely pointless, but in a different way. I wouldn't want to ever listen to either of them ever again if I had my way.
Fair enough.
So, I think this is going to be our last one. Mark Lawrenson. The thatch cottage.
It just feels like he's annoyed at having to do his job.
It's like he doesn't like football.
Yeah,
it's like he dislikes watching football.
He's just... he's as bad as a pundit. I hate him as a pundit, but as a co-commentator...
He's one of the worst, isn't he?
He just... Everything he says... when he's with... I've forgotten his name now, bollocks. The guy who did Robot Wars...
Great Charles.
They're great together.
Jonathan Pierce. There we go. Yeah, Jeremy Clarkson. Those two are together because they're both incredibly unfunny, and they kind of almost like G each other to be funnier.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
His puns when he makes his puns. He's
That's the worst Lawrenson I've ever seen.
Horrendous.
I've been working on that all week. In the mirror, I got fucking nailed Lawrenson.
Zig and Zag.
I've not heard them for a while. Can we do another video on Zig and Zag?
Yeah, clearly, yeah. Pundits, yeah. I'd prefer to listen to Zig and Zag talk about football than Lawrenson, though, because it's just everything about him. It's not even... I mean, we've spoken about what they talk about, what they bring to football. His fucking shirts.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen anybody with a worse collar choice in a shirt. Of anybody.
The shirt's fine, the collar's shit.
Anyone who wears a shirt that is one colour but the collar's white.
Oh, yeah. The sleeve.
They
oh,
literally,
yeah.
they can...
Maybe like
slam it.
5% sweatier when you said that.
Yeah. He's horrible. He talks shit.
He's another one that doesn't do any research as well.
No.
When he's like moaning about VAR for the World Cup, but he didn't know the rules of it. He didn't understand that like they had to cut to somebody else, and he was saying, "Why aren't they reviewing that? Why aren't they reviewing?" Well, they are. They're reviewing everything all the time.
Yeah.
That's the thing. But they will only tell the ref to stop if they think he needs to watch something.
Exactly.
So but he didn't understand that, and he kept saying, "I can't believe they're not reviewing that." And you can tell even the commentators were getting a bit annoyed at him, and say, "Well, yeah, they are, Mark. They're reviewing everything. Not just sat all in their full kits, just like."
I've been got a rave watching Baywatch.
So you think he's outdated? Then is what you're saying? Like,
yeah, I mean, he never should have been indated.
Give me Hansen any day over Lawrenson. He's awful. Like he's just
poor.
His puns are shit. His fucking co-commentary's the worst.
It's how much he moans to me. It's like you say, it seems like he doesn't enjoy watching football.
Yeah.
Which is never seen. He seems really annoyed about everything.
He's the Virgo of football for me. Like, tries to be a bit too funny, and it doesn't work at all.
Yeah,
and also he's got a weird neck.
It's not good.
He's got a weird neck. Didn't he have like?
You're quite fixated about this area of his body.
That's what I've been rating everyone on. That's what we're meant to be rating everyone on.
Right
Right up to a 9. His neck's shit. But
Didn't he have some kind of like kinky games with his missus and burnt his neck?
No, it was Hansen.
Was it? Oh, even better. I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
Kinky games, like some kind of medal. Yeah, fucking. He said 0.5.
0.5.
Wow. Fuck it. Whoa. How low have you gone before?
I don't know. I've had a couple of buds. I don't know.
I'll give him a 1.2.
Yeah,
That's higher than I thought.
higher than everybody.
That's the highest person you've given him,
Not like Gary Neville, like 29.
Oh, yeah.
I'd probably give him a 1. I'd give him 1.
It's all too hard. I just feel like trying to pick the best pundit is like siphoning through your excrement to pick out the bits you want for lunch. You might find a little bit of sweet corn. It tastes vaguely like food.
Is that
but
Gary
it's
Neville?
still essentially shit.
On that bombshell.
Yeah, right. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. If you've got any pundits you think we've missed,
Yeah, because we've obviously done a few.
straight hatters.
Yeah, special mention to McManaman, Sutton, who are fucking dreadful. Cassie's
That's just put it off. That's a Mirren Shiny.
Mirren Shiny. It's a Mirren Shiny. It's a Mirren Shiny. Mirren Shiny.